Hey guys, Ricardo with Phastek.com. You might be wondering why I have the rear cradle out of our 2010 Camaro SS sitting next to me rather than in the car. Well, that's because we're in the process of swapping out the factory rubber cradle bushings for the Hendrix solid aluminum bushings. I'm going to show you how to stiffen the rear suspension so you can achieve better track times, be it that you're going around a track or in a straight line. These bushings will improve the overall handling of your rear suspension. These will replace the factory bushings, but we will have to work at it a bit. As you can see, the factory bushings are held in with a plastic sleeve that will need to be heated and softened to allow us to get them out and then swap them for the aluminum bushings. Jumping right into the installation, we are going to have to remove the exhaust. Loosen the catalytic converters and remove the factory tunnel brace. Then remove the exhaust hangers from the rear, and with the help of a friend, carefully remove the exhaust as one piece. Remove the heat shield from the tunnel of the car. With access to the drive shaft, ensure the car is in the neutral position. Then remove the 6 bolts holding the drive shaft to the rubber couplers. There will be 3 on the front and 3 on the rear sides of the drive shaft. Now remove the 2 bolts holding the carrier bearing to the underside of the car. This will allow you to remove the drive shaft as one piece. If you are using the lift, remove all 4 wheels and tires to help with balance once the rear subframe is removed. Remove the bolt holding the brake line to the upper control arm and remove the rear calipers. Then tie them to a fixed location to prevent any movement when lowering the cradle. Disconnect the 1 electrical harness near the fuel tank. Remove the parking brake cable by pulling at the connection and removing the ball joint from the bracket. With the cable loose from the bracket, you can now pull the remaining cable loose from the fixed locations. The brake cable will be lowered with the cradle. Remove the bolts holding the upper strut mount to the body of the car. There will be 4 bolts on each side of the car. Using a jack, we are going to place it under the differential. Tie a chain or strap around the differential housing to prevent any unwanted movement. This will add a bit of safety when lowering the cradle. With all the components loose and the differential chained, remove the 4 main cradle bolts holding the cradle to the body of the car. Doing this will loosen the cradle and allow you to slowly lower it. When you are ready to lower the cradle, slowly let the jack loose and watch for any components to ensure that everything is clear from the cradle. With the cradle aside, we are going to install a 2-jaw puller to act as a press to provide some pressure to the factory cradle bushings. Once the plastic is softened, the pressure will push the bushing out of the factory location. Using a torch, heat up the sides of the cradle around the bushing. Once it starts to melt, continuously apply pressure with the puller and push the bearing out through the bottom. You will notice when the bushings are loose when you see the plastic melt and push up on the side of the cradle. Using a scraper, scrape any of the remaining plastic off the cradle that could prevent the new bushings from sitting in place. This process will be repeated with each of the 4 bushings. There you have it, guys. Now with all the factory bushings out of the way, we can go ahead and get the Hendrix bushings installed. The top side of the Hendrix bushing is going to be the portion with the most cone towards the top. All it's going to do is sit right in place, and then the bottom side is going to go on the bottom with the factory bolt holding it all together. So we're going to go ahead and get this installed and finish out our install. With the upper cradle bushings installed, line up the cradle and the alignment pins coming off the body and work the cradle back into the factory location. Install the lower portion of the Hendrix bushing, reusing the factory cradle, and tighten them in place. Tighten down all 4 cradle bolts with an air impact to ensure the bolts are tightened in place. There you have it, guys. The cradle bushings are all set to improve the handling of our rear suspension. Now we can launch a bit harder and dive into those corners a bit stronger, knowing the rear suspension is going to stay put. Now I am going to finish getting all the other suspension components back in place, as well as the drive shaft and exhaust. As always, thank you for watching. If you would like any more information about this product, go ahead and click the link in the description. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe for our future videos.